In recent years, there's been an explosion of electric scooters as well as e-bikes, mainly from Chinese companies. And this got me thinking, for someone who's interested in purchasing a relatively inexpensive e-bike or scooter, what is a better choice? So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about a comparison of an e-bike versus a scooter and just give you my general points of view from both sides. This DYU D3F 14-inch electric mini bike is around $459 on their website. It weighs 38 pounds and goes anywhere between 13 to 15 miles per hour. And it has a payload of 265 pounds. But honestly, 265 pounds is probably not ideal. But regardless, it has a 250 watt motor and a 10 amp hour battery, as well as cruise control and front and rear lights. And of course, it also has a front folding mechanism where the handlebar folds in half, so it's easily transported back and forth wherever you need to get to. And now on to the scooter. This Yadea KS6 Pro electric scooter is $589. So we're talking a little over $100 more than the e-bike. But it comes with a 500 watt motor as well as a 15.3 amp hour battery. So already this scooter has more power and a bigger battery than the e-bike. However, later on we're going to be talking about actual range and really see if the bigger battery really makes any difference or not. As far as speed is concerned, it'll do 18.6 miles an hour, and just like the e-bike, it has front and rear lights, as well as a folding mechanism. So with the specs out of the way, I think now it's time to talk about user ownership, because I've had both of these items probably for a couple of months now. I've probably put about 200 miles on this, and I've put about, I would say, anywhere between 75 to 100 miles on the scooter. So I've gotten to know the scooter as well as the e-bike pretty well by now. So what I'm about to share with you now are personal experiences, regardless of what the facts and figures are. As far as practicality goes, I think they're both pretty practical because you can fold the handlebar on the e-bike and you can fold the handlebar on the scooter as well. However, the scooter is probably going to be taking less space vertically if you're the type of person that's going to be traveling with it all the time and you need to store this inside of your trunk. As far as the e-bike is concerned, as I mentioned before, the handlebar is able to be folded. The cool thing about the e-bike is that it has a full twist throttle. And the thing that I probably don't like about the scooter is that the throttle on this is one of those flimsy mechanisms that once you start rolling and your finger's on it, unless you're in cruise control mode, the throttle has a tendency to come loose and break open because it's actuated with a spring, and the spring tensioner inside the throttle unit is really not all that robust. However, I think for longevity, the throttle inside the e-bike is probably going to last you a lot longer than the scooter will. As far as brakes are concerned, Yadea says that this has 3 different levels of braking. You have the front brake as well as the rear brake. You also have an electronic brake assist in the rear. The electronic brake assist in the rear will send power directly back to the battery, so this way it can get recharged. I'm not sure about those claims, to be honest with you, and I'm not sure how much battery power you would get from it. The electric scooter is going to come with drum brakes in the front, and then in the rear it has a disc brake. But there are disc brakes in the front as well as in the rear of the e-bike. Besides that, one of the most important things, at least for me, is comfort. The e-bike is definitely more comfortable than the scooter. Obviously, you're standing up on this. All the bumps on the road are absorbed by your body. Even though this has a front suspension, the front suspension is not all that perfect. I think it's just there to compete with other scooters in the market. Yet, it doesn't really do much to smooth out the bumps as well as it should. When it comes to comfort, I think this e-bike is definitely more comfortable than the scooter because obviously you have a seat that you're sitting on. Even though this doesn't have a suspension, the seat does have springs, and it's way more comfortable than when you're riding the scooter. Now, as far as the speed, as I mentioned before, this goes up to 15.5 miles an hour, but realistically speaking, you'll be doing anywhere between 13 to 15 miles per hour. But the scooter will go faster. It does 19 miles per hour. As far as this DYU e-bike, one thing I don't like about it is the very sensitive steering, especially if you're doing 15 miles an hour, so be very, very careful if you're going downhill. Other things I probably don't like about this is the seat post because it moves around a lot. I tightened it as much as I could, but unfortunately the seat post keeps moving left and right. As far as the scooter is concerned, I will mention that as far as the throttle mechanism, that's one thing that is probably going to end up breaking at one point or another. So if you're going to buy a scooter, make sure that the throttle mechanism is something that they sell spare parts of. Besides that, the folding mechanism is one of the weaker spots on these scooters. If you're standing up on it, this one has like a slight wobble to it. And I'm afraid that if you keep riding this for a very long time, the folding mechanism could potentially collapse. But this is after riding it probably for a couple thousand miles. This may or may not happen. I'm just making a guesstimate here, and I'm speaking about worst case scenarios. As far as overall value is concerned, I would probably say that the e-bike is a bit better value. And if I were to commute back and forth, and I had a very long commute of, let's just say, 10 to 15 miles every single day back and forth to school or to work, I would probably use this because not only is it more comfortable to ride, but the range on this is probably a little bit better than the scooter. The scooter claims that it'll do somewhere around 40 miles on a single charge, but we all know that that's not true. If you want to do 40 miles on a single charge on the scooter, then that means that you would probably have to ride in its lowest settings and do about 10 miles an hour. That's not practical. No one really does that. So real world range on this is probably somewhere around 12 to 15 miles if you're going to be using it in the middle tier or on the high tier, and you're going to be riding it every single day. It'll probably last you a week or a little bit less than that. Then you're going to have to recharge it again, especially if you're commuting every single day. As far as the e-bike is concerned, you're going to get more range out of this because I've tested it. The range on this is 37 miles on a single charge, but that's with pedal assist. However, with pedal assist, there's a dead spot on the e-bike. After about 10 miles an hour, regardless of how much you pedal, it's not going to go any faster, and you're just going to be pedaling for absolutely no reason. But I do like the fact that you can rest your feet on this while you're sitting on a chair, and it's a lot more comfortable. So I guess by now you've probably guessed what I like better. I definitely like the e-bike better. It's cheaper and it's more comfortable to ride than a scooter. And I think in the long run, this e-bike will last longer than the scooter. Because of the throttle mechanism as well as the form factor of the folding handlebar, it may or may not last for a very long time. So in conclusion, if you're purchasing something like a DYU D3F e-bike or a scooter, your decision has to be if this is going to be just for fun, going to parks and whatnot, or you're going to be using it for long commutes. For long commutes, definitely the e-bike. But if you're using a scooter just for fun, going on parks like the one I'm in right now, then I think you may have a little bit more fun with the scooter because it will go faster and it picks up speed really, really quickly, because the throttle response on this e-bike is really not all that great. But as I mentioned before, it's probably more practical than something like a scooter like this. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was somewhat helpful for you. And if it was, please make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Ciao for now.